LLC operating agreements. Let's go through some of the basics and then move beyond some of the basics to what you might typically see in an LLC operating agreement. What are some key provisions to be in there, and what would you want to negotiate on? Now, a lot of what the contents of the LLC operating agreement is going to be based on whether it's a single owner company, a multi-owner company, and how that is going to play. Management dynamics, these are all things that get addressed in the operating agreement. I believe it's the best practice to make it all into one agreement. Some practitioners I've seen think of an LLC kind of as a quasi corporation, so they'll kind of mimic the corporate structure. So in a corporation, you have a certificate of incorporation or certificate of formation, different names in different states, something filed publicly with the state. Then you typically have bylaws and a whole series of meetings and other things that support that bylaw adoption and the operation agreement. But you have publicly filed document and bylaws. Now, what some practitioners will do is they'll set up the LLC with the publicly filed document. They'll have an operating agreement, which kind of mimics a corporation formation, and then they'll have separate bylaws. I've seen that structure. I typically collapse them into one document, into what we call an operating agreement or an LLC agreement. And that's going to have some key things, names of the parties, the fact the company was formed, authorization of the formation, obviously name of the company. And then it'll start getting into who are the owners of the company, what are the ownership percentages, who are the members, who's managing the company, who manages the company, makes decisions for it. Is there a board? Is it a single person? How do major decisions get made? You'll typically have a bunch of liability language, of allocation of risk and liability, probably some talk about distribution of money issues, potentially litigation clauses. All of this stuff is going into your operating agreement, and all of that stuff is customizable. Now, some of it will be pretty standard. If you have a single owner, you have a lot less controversy. You want to get some provisions in there to protect you from liability. Basically, you don't want a situation where a creditor could potentially try to take control of the company and then force you to put more money into the company. So there's some very specific wording you can work in there that will be helpful in those situations. So you want to think about all of that in advance. The multi-owner companies get a lot more complex because you got to allocate the profits and losses. You got to figure out who does what. And then also, you need to think about decision-making, deadlocks, and the 4Ds we've talked about: death, disability, divorce, disagreement. All of that needs to be built into the agreement as well. But your operating agreement is the house for all of that. And if you get all of that well written and put that into a document, then that document becomes a basis for all the answers to all the questions with your company. Hopefully, at least most of them. You go back to the LLC agreement. It tells you how to do things. And most states respect those LLC agreements at such a high level that they will respect whatever you put in those four corners of that document. So you want to get that LLC agreement right. It becomes a very pivotal document in the course of your company. Hope that's helpful. If you have general questions or prompts for future videos, go ahead and drop them below. If you have specific questions about yourself, your situation, your company, don't put that here. Other people can see your comments on social media. That's more appropriate for a private conversation with an attorney. There's obviously no attorney-client relationship formed over an internet video like this, but I do want to hear your comments and ideas for future videos. Sometimes viewer comments prompt other videos that we'll do. And I hope you subscribe to the channel so we can see each other for more videos soon. Thanks for tuning in today, folks.